Yes, I think so. I think maybe I'm just a little bit shorter than, just a little shorter than she is. It's okay. It's okay. Okay. Before you start the timer, can I just say that I get cards from Chris Gorman after tonight? I feel so special. Thank you, Chris. Okay. Now, when I was 5, we lived on Fairlane Drive in Austin, Texas, the center of the universe. I had my own bedroom. The sidewalk went all the way around the block. There was green grass in front and behind our house. We went to swimming pools and movie theaters, and every home had a stay-at-home mom and a dad who worked in some office someplace. At Christmas time, everybody on the block put up a giant candy cane, and I thought we lived in Candyland. My father's business wasn't doing very well, though. It turns out his grandfather came from England, his grandmother from Mexico, and they had started ranching in South Texas. So he decided we should go down there and revive the ranching business. We moved to Rio Grande City, Texas, in Starr County. It was the third poorest county in the USA, predominantly migrant farm workers, maybe 50% of the population. We moved into the family home, which was a one-bedroom apartment above what had been a dry goods store. Well, my brother and sister and I slept there in the bedroom at the top of the stairs. The house hadn't even been occupied for 5 years, and the stairs creaked all night long. And my brother and sister used it to torture me because the boogeyman only comes for the youngest child, right? There were no sidewalks, there was no grass. The movie theater closed down within 2 years of our arrival, and the vacuum tube in our TV broke about the same time. And for those of you who don't remember vacuum tubes, that means you have no TV. It was not Candyland. Well, we went out and, there were kids in the neighborhood. We formed baseball teams. We played games. We searched out lizard nests in the brick pile. And I got to say, the eggs are really cute. I know how to identify a tarantula trapdoor in the dirt and leaves. And I know to avoid something called the chupa hueso, which translates as bone sucker, and it is a tarantula hawk wasp. One of the kids lived in a one-room shack behind us with no running water and an outhouse. And another one, I had no idea until after I had actually left town, that his mom was a madam who managed a house a few blocks away. But we just played together. Well, on my 10th birthday, I just went into a funk. I have spent half of my life in this boring town. It's over. Life is over. About the same time, a man named Eugene Nelson came to town. He was a union organizer sent by Cesar Chavez to organize the farm workers. Well, suddenly, things were happening all over town. There were farm workers with banners, and they would march down the street shouting, "Huelga, huelga," which is Spanish for strike. There were gatherings at the courthouse. There were gatherings in front of the packing sheds for the fruit that the farmers would send out of town. Eugene Nelson was involved in it all. One night, we heard the firehouse engine blow and call in the Fallen Deer firemen. And we looked out the window, and there was a huge fire on the edge of town. Well, in Rio Grande City, there were no TV stations. So if you wanted to see the news, you just went and saw it in person. So we all jumped in the car and drove out to see this fire. And it was like 200 feet in the air, flames. And the railway bridge that carried the fruit out of town was on fire. So the farmers called in the Texas Rangers to keep the peace. Things went on, strike was going on, and one day my mom comes out into the yard. She says, "Kids, get in the car. Eugene Nelson is blocking the train." So, of course, we drove over to the packing shed and got out and watched. And, I was 10 years old. I look out, and there's this tall, thin man, Eugene Nelson. I can say I saw Eugene Nelson. There were the strikers with their pickets. There were these big men, kind of overweight, with big hats and guns. Those were the Texas Rangers. It was a kind of tense scene, but I was only 10. nothing really seemed to happen. And I thought, yeah, it's Rio Grande City. Well, it turns out that earlier in the morning, about 10 of the union leaders had been arrested. And that night, the Texas Rangers took some of the union leaders and held them over the railroad tracks as a train was leaving just inches from them. Then one morning, our weekly newspaper, which was now coming out daily with special editions because of the strike, had on the front page a picture of a guy with his head all bandaged. And my father says, "Oh, look at that. The Rangers beat up Magdaleno Dimas." He was one of the leaders of the strike. It was a little strange. But life went on. A hurricane came into town. The farms flooded. The strike kind of ended. I went off to college. And then there was this Supreme Court case where the Supreme Court upheld a case against the Rangers, citing the Texas picket laws for violating the First Amendment right of the strikers. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was there. I actually saw these things happen. I saw the blocking of the train. I saw the fire. And then I realized, you know what? I just wanted to get back to Candyland for the security, the predictability of life. But isn't that what everybody in this strike wanted? Just to have security and predictability? And you know what? If I'd grown up in Candyland, I don't think I would have realized how hard that journey can be. So thank you, Rio Grande City, and to all of us, all of everybody who struggles to get to Candyland, viva la huelga!